The second GOP debate was last night, and it was split into both the undercard and mainline debates. So what I want to do here is I want to kind of give you my picks for winners and losers of this debate. And of course, there's not just winners and losers, but there's also just people that were just kind of there. I'm going to get into that. Now, I've got a little list, and then I'm going to go through why I picked them as a winner, why I picked them as a loser. Well, first of all, on the list of winners, I don't think anybody can really argue that Carly Fiorina wasn't incredibly strong. She was incredibly strong. She was very, very good. She was very poised. I'm going to get into why, other reasons why I think she did really well in this debate. Following that, of course, is Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush, very surprising as well. Another winner, of course, Donald Trump. Now, how can we leave out the Donald? Can't leave out the Donald. Did very, very well. Losers, Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, John Kasich, Chris Christie, and surprisingly, Scott Walker. So let's go through and kind of find out where I think about the winners. Okay. Now, Carly Fiorina. Now, I chose Carly Fiorina as one of the winners because she was very, very well prepared. She was very well prepared, and she was very poised, and she fought back against Donald Trump incredibly effectively. Now, this was probably her mic drop moment, and I want to show you a little bit of a clip of that right now.
Ms. Fiorina, I do want to ask you about this. In an interview last week in Rolling Stone magazine, Donald Trump said the following about you, quote, "Look at that face. Would anyone vote for that? Can you imagine that, the face of our next president?" Mr. Trump later said he was talking about your persona, not your appearance. Please feel free to respond what you think about his persona.
You know, it's interesting to me, Mr. Trump said that he heard Mr. Bush very clearly and what Mr. Bush said. I think women all over this country heard very clearly what Mr. Trump said.
All right, so that right there was excellent. And that even got Donald Trump to be like, ooh, that was good. Listen to his response to that.
I think she's got a beautiful face, and I think she's a beautiful woman.
There you go, man. The taming of Donald Trump. Well played. Well played, Fiorina. Well played. Now, she also made some, of course, very effective emotional pleas when it comes to, of course, the contentious issue of abortion, Planned Parenthood, as well as some of the drug laws. I want to show you some more highlights of Carly Fiorina's night. Watch.
As regards Planned Parenthood, anyone who has watched this videotape, I dare Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama to watch these tapes. Watch a fully formed fetus on the table, its heart beating, its legs kicking, while someone says we have to keep it alive to harvest its brain. This is about the character of our nation. And if we will not stand up and force President Obama to veto this bill, shame on us. Jake, I'll tell you why people are supporting outsiders. It's because you know what happens if someone's been in a system their whole life? They don't know how broken the system is. A fish swims in water, it doesn't know it's water. It's not that politicians are bad people. It's that they've been in that system forever. Having met Vladimir Putin, if I may, having met Vladimir Putin, I wouldn't talk to him at all. We've talked way too much to him. By the way, the reason it is so critically important that every one of us know General Soleimani's name is because Russia is in Syria right now because the head of the Quds force traveled to Russia and talked Vladimir Putin into aligning themselves with Iran and Syria to prop up Bashar al-Assad. Russia is a bad actor, but Vladimir Putin is someone we should not talk to. And Mrs. Clinton is going to have to defend her track record of lying about Benghazi, of lying about her emails, about lying about her servers. She does not have a track record of accomplishment. Like Mrs. Clinton, I too have traveled hundreds of thousands of miles around the globe. But unlike Mrs. Clinton, I know that flying is an activity. It is not an accomplishment. When you challenge the status quo, you make enemies. I made a few. Steve Jobs told me that when he called me the day I was fired to say, hey, been there, done that twice. It's also true that the man that led my firing, Tom Perkins, just took out a full-page ad in the New York Times to say he was wrong, I was right, I was a terrific CEO, the board was dysfunctional, and he thinks I will make a magnificent president of the United States.
All right, so there's some highlights of Carly Fiorina. As I said, she very, very strong stylistically. I don't agree with the damn thing that she said. And actually, as later on, I'm going to get into where she was wrong on a lot of her positions, especially the Planned Parenthood thing. But stylistically, she was on it. She was very prepared. She did very well. She made very strong statements, and she made some very effective emotional pleas. Now, as I said, this was very good. She got huge applause lines from a lot of these statements. As I said, she did very, very well. Now, I go to Jeb Bush. Now, Jeb Bush also was very surprising. He actually wasn't taking any shit from Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump, as I said, was kicking the crap out of Jeb Bush for a long time. And finally, Jeb Bush was like, no, I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to take it. I'm going to keep talking, and you're not going to shut me up. And that actually got some respect from Donald Trump. And that basically, that's because Donald Trump is a bully. Now, Donald Trump is a bully. There was actually an article that recently came out from a child behavioral specialist that basically said that Donald Trump's rhetorical style is that of an 8-year-old, an 8th grade girl. How hilarious is that, right? So Donald Trump's kind of a bully, kind of a tough guy, right? And so here's Jeb Bush standing up and saying, you know what, I'm not going to take it. And that works because, what's the one way to fight against a bully? To get his respect. You punch him in the nose. And that's sort of what Jeb Bush did last night. And that's how Jeb Bush got, of course, some respect. A little bit of respect, a little bit of a high five, because he challenged Trump. And that, of course, as I said, earns you some respect. Now, as far as Donald Trump goes, Trump is still Trump. And he's still, a little bit more toned down than last time, but he was still a big presence there at the debate. And it's not going to be so easy to discount that presence. He still took center stage. And because he's, first of all, he's very, very good at keeping the attention focused on him. He's a reality TV star. That's kind of what he does. Now let's go to the losers. This is the best part. The losers. Mike Huckabee. What an absolute disaster. He was a mess. Nobody really cared all that much about what Mike Huckabee had to say. It's like he was present in the building, but he wasn't exactly there. Nobody was really latching on to what Mike Huckabee was saying. Now, Ted Cruz was even more pathetic in the fact that he had sucked up to Donald Trump. He's like, oh, Donald Trump. Oh, I love you, Donald Trump. You're so right. You're so right. And he decided to make some really ridiculous statements about John Roberts. Now, during this, he thinks John Roberts is a liberal. Oh. Now, contrast that to 2005 Ted Cruz, where he wrote in a National Review op-ed and said, look, as a jurist, Judge Roberts' approach will be that of his entire career, carefully, faithfully, applying the Constitution and legal precedent. How much more smug can I talk before I get even close to Ted Cruz? I think I have a long way to go. Now, apparently, Ted Cruz is no longer a fan of John Roberts, calling him a liberal, after all. Okay, liberal. So let's kind of dissect that for a second here. the Roberts Court is nowhere near liberal. They're actually one of the most pro-corporate courts. They're incredibly pro-corporate. They hand down huge wins for corporations, for rich people. In fact, Citizens United, McCutcheon, Hobby Lobby, those are incredibly pro-corporate and pro-wealthy. Not only that, but he also struck down the VRA, the Voting Rights Act, that ensured that people could actually vote without getting disenfranchised. And you want to call him a liberal? You want to call him a liberal. Why? Because he sided with gay marriage? Or the incredibly generous corporate giveaway that is called Obamacare? No, he's a liberal. So the one pro-corporate thing that the Roberts Court did that actually gave people health care, you don't like. And that makes him too liberal. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Now, another thing. We go to Chris Christie. Chris Christie is arguably the biggest piece of shit on the stage. Why? Just the whole invoking, the whole 9/11 thing. That gets under my skin, as it should. It should get under everybody's skin. Because this is the guy, remember, that was giving away pieces of the World Trade Center to top donors. Not to mention the scandals with Bridgegate, etc., etc. He's a slimy politician and a piece of garbage. Now, regardless of that, regardless of how I personally feel about him, I actually was kind of surprised at Christie's softer tone. Now, I had said before that he was being out-Trumped in his own game by Donald Trump being the tough guy. So that it's natural that he saw that as well and said, well, I have to change my approach. Being the tough guy, being the straight talker, that's not going to work for me anymore. So I have to change my approach. And he actually did try to do so. Surprisingly, it was ineffective. But if you can remember, he started out by saying, well, this campaign's not about me. It's not about Chris Christie. No, it's about you. It's about that 55-year-old construction worker in the audience. That's who it's about. I'd argue that his policies don't exactly help that construction worker. But whatever. The point is that he did change his strategy, but I think, I've said it before, Chris Christie still doesn't have a chance. He's done. Get out of here. Clean up, go home. Alright. And finally, Scott Walker, and one of the losers. And this was actually one of the most surprising losers that I had seen. Scott Walker was unimpressive. He was unarticulate and uninspiring. I pretty much forgot that he was even there. And that was hard to do. I think the biggest thing is that he let, I thought that he was actually going to be a very dangerous contender. I was wrong. I was wrong on that one. He turned out to be very, very weak. He is an empty suit, as a lot of people have said. And I agree with that. And he did not deliver at all. In fact, as I said, I forgot he was even there. So, but anyway, I'm going to get out of the winners and losers, because really the rest of them, this is a big debate. Huge debate. 11 people. So, it's really hard to go through every single one of them and sort of critique them. That I'm going to try, and these are the people that didn't fit into either the winner or the loser category, but kind of had a mixed performance, some good, some bad. Now, for that I go to Marco Rubio. Now, Marco Rubio was prepared. He did well when he was asked. He explained his positions pretty clearly. He even made a nice little funny joke about water. Yeah, I brought my own water. Now, that would have been funny, but then he referenced California, of course, in the drought, which is being prolonged by climate change. And when you look at his positions on climate change, and the fact that when the subject came up, he's like, no, I'm not gonna do anything about it. Fuck it. I'm not gonna do anything on climate change. It makes the joke kind of not funny. Combine that with, of course, that's just my own personal thing, but of course combine his performance with, it was good, but he didn't nearly get enough time. And so he didn't really stand out, in my opinion. Now, Rand Paul. We go to Rand Paul. Now, Rand Paul's a guy that I can agree with sometimes. Sometimes. Because he does say sensible things. Sometimes. And his foreign policy was absolutely sensible. Did it make an impact? Not exactly, but I think he did do an effective job at separating himself from everybody else. That said, still wasn't the most strong performance when it came to Rand Paul. He didn't really fire anybody up, but he did say some stuff that I agree with. Now, since I am a liberal, that might not be a winning strategy when it comes to the GOP primaries. But nonetheless, as I said, I think he did really well kind of going and spotlighting his libertarianism in an effort to separate himself from the rest of the GOP. And as I said, he did quite well, except on the issue of the flat tax, which is absolutely ridiculous. And as stylistically, it certainly was not enough to steal the spotlight from Trump. Remember, the best part, the greatest part here, that was my personal favorite, was when Donald Trump looked at Rand Paul and said, "What are you even doing here, man? You're 1% in the polls. You shouldn't even be here." Ouch. Just ouch. All right. Now, finally, Ben Carson, the last guy. Ben Carson, kind of boring. Donald Trump was right. He's got no energy. He's very low energy. He spoke very, very carefully, very quietly, and he did try to inject some facts, especially when it came to him fighting with Donald Trump over vaccines, and he did so, but he wasn't all that exciting. Now, how that's going to reflect in the polls, I'm not sure. He's still polling at number 2. So I wouldn't count Dr. Ben Carson out yet. I haven't seen pollings from post-debate. So we'll see how well his performance in the debate measures out.